Hello, beautiful people. You're in the A to Z for ADD, and today we are talking N for nutritional deficiencies. I'm Katie Jolly, Dr. Amen, brain health trainer, and I'm here to talk to you today about your brain and what it may be lacking, and that's the reason that the symptoms are coming up in your life. So it's all knowledge and learning. Take from it what you want, and you have to explore your own body to see what's right for you. So let's get into the presentation. Okay, so I love this. Our brain isn't broken, it's communicating. So, what can your nutritional deficiencies tell you about what is happening in your brain? Because quite often we believe that mental health is a fixed condition, that we might just be ADHD or we're anxious or we're depressed, right? But nutritional deficiencies can play a massive part in how you are feeling and how your brain is operating. And I'd like to share this with you today so that you can do some more exploration on your own to look at your nutritional status. So we know that our health exists in four circles. So the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the social. But what we are going to focus on today is purely the physical, is looking at the nutritional deficiencies for your brain so you can start to optimize your brain function. Okay, so one of the most empowering things to realize when we talk about brain health is that nutrient deficiencies rarely happen in isolation, right? There are lifestyle factors. There are things that you're eating, things that you're consuming. There might be inflammation. Your gut might not be healthy. You might be drinking a little bit too much alcohol, or you may have had a history of drug use or currently be using medications that are depleting these nutrients from your body. So again, I love this, going from what's wrong with me to what might my brain be missing. And this is what we want to focus on to reduce the stigma around mental health, is if you start to think, okay, it's my brain, it's not me, it's my brain. What is my brain missing? What does my brain need? Then we can start to shift the narrative of feeling like a victim of a mental health diagnosis to actually being empowered to doing something about it. So let's go through. The first important nutrient is zinc, and it's involved in over 44 different chemical reactions in the body. Again, it was quite funny. I met with a practitioner yesterday and speaking about blood tests, and she said to me that generally they don't test for zinc. I was talking about ADHD. They don't test for zinc because it's so generalized unless there is something specific happening with the person. But in the studies that I have done, the zinc can be one of the indicators of ADHD, that your zinc is low. It can produce ADHD type symptoms. So let's have a little bit of a look. So it regulates dopamine, helps with cognitive function and immunity, all right? You will know all about zinc for immunity, but not necessarily for your brain. And we see all the common ADHD symptoms in here: poor attention and concentration, hyperactivity, impulsivity, irritability and mood swings, increased anxiety, and there may be poor appetite. There has been Patrick Holford, who is a nutritionist in the United Kingdom, talks about low zinc being common with anorexics. Okay, this is documented clinical evidence. So that's something, if you know someone or yourself may have anorexia, get your zinc levels checked. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look, and I've popped the pictures on the right of where to find zinc. I'm not going to go through this because we've got a lot to get through today and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So you can Google where to find it, but the common causes of deficiency are a high processed diet, okay, chronic stress, alcohol use, which you will see right across the board in nutrient deficiencies. Alcohol can knock out a lot of the nutrients in your body. Gut issues, vegetarian or vegan diets, unless you're carefully planning or supplementing with zinc, and certain medications as well. Okay, so the next one is iron, and I see this all the time with my clients, is that iron deficiency can look like crazy, particularly depressed. It can look like brain fog, worsening ADHD symptoms, irritability, okay, with low ferritin. So, what's really interesting when you get your blood tests done and you see the reference range, if you've ever looked at your results, it's like the goalposts on a football field. And unless you are out, the ball is out on either end of the football field, quite often, more often than not, your provider might say, oh, you're fine. But my friends, especially with iron, with ferritin, if you are at the lower end of the reference range and you're experiencing these symptoms, there might not be enough ferritin in your system for you. Interestingly, high ferritin, which can be a genetic thing called hemochromatosis, or men may get this because obviously they're not bleeding regularly like most women do. High iron can cause the same issues in the body. Okay, so it's important to test where you are and get your levels right for your energy. Okay, for women, if you have heavy menstruation, you're at risk. If you have a low red meat intake, you're at risk. Gut disorders, also if your vitamin B12 is low, you're at risk, and chronic inflammation. And again, certain medications, you'll see antacids are quite common throughout these deficiencies and causing this in the body. Okay. So, vitamin B6, which helps with the production of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, some of the symptoms that you may be experiencing if this is low is anxiety, irritability, low mood, poor concentration, and sleep disturbances. And they've found that supplementing with B6 can actually be really good for premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual tension, and also helping people to relax. And I'll get into this later on. So again, here we see alcohol, oral contraceptive use, certain medications, poor diet, chronic inflammation. Same, right? Same coming up through all of what can cause your nutritional deficiencies. Okay, B12. So again, nerve health, myelin formation, energy production. We see brain fog, we see memory issues, difficulty concentrating, depression, fatigue, and mood instability. I have had clients who have had bipolar before, diagnosed with bipolar. They get their vitamin B12 tested and they are very low. Okay, this is what I have seen. There is clinical evidence that low B12 can really cause mood instability. So what causes it? Aging, reduced stomach acids, and that's why we see that acid-suppressing medications can actually reduce B12 in your system. So we're looking at antacids again, right? Vegetarian or vegan diets, using metformin can reduce B12, and also gut disorders. So if there's any celiacs or Crohn's, this can reduce your B12. Okay, vitamin D. And again, interesting story. Talking to a practitioner yesterday about getting tested. I wanted to get tested for my vitamin D levels. As I spend, even though I do spend time outdoors, I work indoors predominantly. She mentioned that in New Zealand, they don't really test it unless there is an indication. But the research around low vitamin D and mental health is massive. Now, particularly if you are olive or darker skinned, which I tend to be olive, quite olive skinned, we absorb less vitamin D from the sun. It's a thing. And if you're Maori, Pacific Islander, you're of an indigenous race where you have got darker skin, looking at your vitamin D is crucial, particularly if you have low mood, fatigue, poor concentration, low motivation, and increased ADHD symptoms. So what causes it? being indoors a lot, which the majority of us are, low sun exposure, darker skin in low sun climates, but it's also checking if you're a person with darker skin and you're indoors a lot, check your vitamin D. Obesity causes it, chronic inflammation, and poor dietary intake. And you can see on the right hand side where to find your vitamin D in your food. Okay, magnesium. Now, this is a massive one for ADD, ADHD, but for anxiety and irritability in general. Now, another little, and this is a naturopathic hack that I learned. If you are sensitive to sound, sometimes your magnesium can be low, and supplementing with magnesium can help this. I was very, very sensitive to people chewing. That used to drive me through the roof. And then I started supplementing with magnesium glycinate and it was better. So, again, causes of deficiency. Here we go. Alcohol, sugar. It's the same family, my friends. Caffeine, diuretics, highly processed food, and high stress. Okay. All of the things that we may be doing and consuming in a fast-paced society. So as you can see, we want to get back into whole foods. Dark chocolate is very high, which, yeah, it can make a lot of people happy. So omega-3, what this does is it actually helps with your brain cell membrane structure and neurotransmitter function. So there is a lot of research around omega-3, primarily for heart health, but people, my clients, when they've started taking omega-3, I've found this personally as well, my brain function has improved. So for depression, it's a game changer, okay? So we can get it through eating more fish. If you're not eating a lot of fish, your concentration might be down, your memory might be down, there may be the hyperactivity, impulsivity, and learning difficulties. It's all about just doing a little experiment and seeing if it helps you. And the common causes of deficiency is we're just not eating it. We might be having a high omega-6 processed diet, all of your seed oils, which a lot of your processed foods are fried in, all of your crappy junk foods tend to be fried in omega-6 seed oils, right? So we get an imbalance. And then a vegetarian and vegan diet without algae sources. And then finally, right, iodine. So we talked about this the other day in terms of having a slow thyroid, hypothyroid. The thyroid helps with brain metabolism. Okay, so super, super important because if your thyroid function is low, you can get brain fog, fatigue, slowed thinking, and low mood. And common causes of deficiency, if you're not having seafood, if you're in low iodine soil regions, and this is something you can Google, I don't know the status of New Zealand. I know we are naturally quite low in selenium, which again, selenium deficiency, I haven't got that here, but it can really play into depression. And if you're not having iodized salt, seaweed is really good as well for iodine. So if you like nori, kelp, things like that, adding some of this into your diet can help. All right, people. So for you, if you're wanting to look into these deficiencies for yourself, what can you do? Right, go to your doctor, ask for some blood tests, get your ferritin checked, which is the component of iron that is looking at your iron storage. Okay, look at your zinc, look at your vitamin D, your B12, and your thyroid function. Okay, if you get pushback in New Zealand, there can be pushback from the doctors. You may have to pay to get your zinc and your vitamin D tested. I know in other parts of the world, like in the USA, you're having to pay for these tests anyway. So request them so that you can see. You could ask for a copy of your results so you can see in the reference range where you are sitting especially for iron. I'd recommend have a look at the reference range or discuss this with your provider, your symptoms alongside your test results. One thing that can be a really reliable source is hair testing, getting your hair testing done. I'm not affiliated with any companies, so just find something for yourself. This can really look at key deficiencies because in your blood is always aiming to keep things stable, right? So when calcium drops, it might start pulling it from the bones to keep the blood stable. Similar with iron, the blood is wanting to keep what's called homeostasis. So it's wanting to keep your blood healthy and neutral. Whereas hair testing turns around and it's looking at the pattern over a period of time. That's quite often why they use hair testing for drug use, because it stays in your hair. So the hair can be a really good way of looking at your magnesium, looking at your omega-3, things like that. Okay, always check the quality of your supplements. You want something that has actually been tested. You can get a lot of cheap crap at health stores, in the supermarket, things like that. So if you can find a reliable source, BrainMD, which is Dr. Amen's brand, is clinically tested. And it's proven, and there are a number of different ranges in New Zealand as well that have been clinically tested. Just look for this, right? Add an omega-3 or eat more fish. And then this is just my personal lens. Some of it comes from Dr. Amen's study as well, so that may help ADD or ADHD. So omega-3, magnesium glycinate, L-theanine, and quite often you can get formulas that have these bundled up. I know BrainMD has a bundled up formula. L-tyrosine, which can help the brain to switch on and focus. Saffron, and this is one of my personal favorites. And again, this comes from Patrick Holford, because people with a longer second toe tend to get depleted in zinc, magnesium, and B6, apparently. Fun fact. Fun fact. I have to double check that with Patrick Holford, right? But yeah, so quite a few, well, so many of my clients who have anxiety or difficulty sleeping, I put them onto ZMA, which used to be a bodybuilding supplement for muscle recovery. So it's got zinc, magnesium, B6. It's a game changer for anxiety. It really is, and can help you calm down. So as I mentioned, BrainMD for if you're in the States, and if you're in New Zealand, you can get them through iHerb. Sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm trying to get through this fast. And in New Zealand, there is a supplement which is really good for the prefrontal cortex for focus, is called a Reaper. So I've used this before, and it really does help your brain to switch on. So if you're in a state in New Zealand, because there is a shortage of stimulant medications, BrainMD does a brain power, I think, or brain boost, which is a powder supplement, and that really clicks your brain on. It's got a substance in it which is a byproduct of caffeine, but it doesn't give you the same jittery effect as caffeine. It just switches your brain on. And a Reaper in New Zealand is really good as well with their formula. So I will stop the share, and yeah, hope this helps you. Just remember that all of this information is just knowledge. What I've learned through my journey, you have to take the knowledge and then do some little experiments, try the supplementation, look at your blood tests and really find what works for you, because we are inundated with knowledge and it can become very, very overwhelming. It's just about taking a little bit. And I like to think of health like a private investigator. One of my clients recently who had suspected ADHD, I sent her to her doctor and she came back with incredibly low zinc and low iron. Started supplementing with iron and the ADHD symptoms started to melt away. Okay. So for you, if you're sitting there with a mental health diagnosis, just do your research, get some facts, some clinical evidence in front of you, which blood test, hair testing, things like that may be beneficial. And then you have a clearer protocol of which way to go because you don't want to start supplementing with iron unless you have tested, because again, high iron can look like low iron, right? High zinc can look like low zinc. So we really have to be mindful with supplementation of going in with a lens of hesitation, not just throwing it down your throat and wishing for the best. Go in with an investigation mindset and find the key to your door. So I hope this helps you. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep shining.